Hello and welcome to the 32nd Annual NOFA New Jersey Winter Conference. My name is Tony Kinnett.
And I'm Scott Morgan.
And we're going to be your hosts for these 2 days of spectacular speakers and topics.
Yeah, we're going to go into lots of tips and techniques that you can use on the homestead, the farm, your garden, however you operate in the space.
And we have people from all over New Jersey and the world that are excited to talk with you about things like food sovereignty, the politics of seeds, so many wonderful topics. Now, just as a reminder, this is a Zoom conference.
Watch the background, watch your microphone, make sure you're muted whenever you can, whenever you're not.
And don't worry, you will get a chance to talk and interact and be a part of the conversation. Just, first maybe write something in the chat, we'll get your question going, and then we'll reel you in when it's your turn to shine. So with no further ado, we would like to introduce our outgoing Executive Director, Nagisa Manabe.
Thank you, Tony. I'm gonna start by sharing my screen. Let's see if I can do that. Okay, so welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. We started a little late because we probably have nearly 300 registrants and probably only about 100 have signed on so far. So we wanted to give people a little bit of time to join us. But welcome and thank you for joining us on this lovely snowy day. Hopefully you all are warm and have power and all those wonderful things, because you can enjoy all the content from your house and be warm and comfortable, and Tony and Scott have tons of things planned for you that are super fun. So welcome everyone. So I'm going to just take a few minutes to give some introductory remarks, and then I'll turn it over to our guest speakers. Okay, so the truth is the organic industry participants are living in exciting times with unprecedented levels of growth in demand. In May of last year, the Organic Trade Association announced that U.S. organic sales grew to new highs in 2020, jumping by 12.4% to a record 61.9 billion, so practically 62 billion. It reflected a growth rate more than twice that of 2019, which was 5%. And according to the 2021 Organic Industry Survey released by the OTA, it grew in almost every organic aisle. And propelled U.S. organic food sales to a record 13% growth and a new high of 56.4 billion. Yeah. So it's pretty amazing. Yeah. Let me just see why. Oh, I guess it's sharing my whole screen, Tony.
Okay.
Yeah. So let me just see if I can get it to share only the slides. Okay, here we go. So here are some of the numbers. You can see them on the screen. And if as an organic farmer, if you're not experiencing this growth, you're probably wondering, where the heck are all those sales going? And I think that Jim will certainly address some of that in his remarks, as well many of the other speakers today. But I thought I would just take a little moment to reflect on it as the 3 years of serving on the NOFA staff comes to an end. We really need to look no closer than our own homes and pantries, because does anyone participating in this conference eat 100% organic? And even if 100% organic is impossible, do you know if you even achieve 50% organic in terms of consumption? So, if you're busy and you're on the go, you might want to procure foods and meals with, frankly, unknown origins, but they happen to be really convenient and accessible. And that seems to be the story of the day, that many people are eating organic, their interest is growing, but unfortunately, it doesn't translate directly into growth for our farmers and our local markets. So just one simple example, organic frozen foods grew 28% last year, including frozen, canned, and dried products. Total organic fruit and vegetables grew 20.4 billion, which is incredible. Organic flour and baked goods grew by 30%, which is another shocking number. And then, but what states are winning in this organic food growth? I'm just going to share these two charts, which is incredible when you look at it. Look how much of the total organic food volume is coming from California, and look how many acres they are growing on, and look how many farms they have. It's incredible. And of course, you look at you would think it would be the Midwest, but it is not classically the farming areas you think of. It's like California, the Pacific Northwest, Washington, Oregon, California. And then in the Northeast, yes, PA is doing quite well in growth and development of farms. So why am I bringing this all up? Because after working at NOFA for 3 years, I fear that we in New Jersey are struggling to keep up with that growth and capture our fair share of that growth. And many of our successful New Jersey farmers are not making a good living anymore, are thinking of retirement or selling their operations. And they're having trouble hiring labor to support their farms. In fact, we've just had kind of a significant change in NJDA, but we actually only have less than 100 certified farms in New Jersey, organic farms. And while many may be farming organically, few are actually certifying. Last year, with the pandemic, I had a little bit of hope because we saw many farms pivoting to selling online, delivery, et cetera, making their operations more convenient. And farmer markets were getting more traffic with renewed interest from consumers. But alas, we're hearing that market sales are declining again and stretching farmers even further as they have to go to more and more markets to sell their produce and products. And you know, at frankly, costly employee support levels. So stepping back, what got us here just isn't going to keep us here. It isn't going to keep the growth going. Now, this seems discouraging, but we are seeing many models work. Cooperatives to compete with direct-to-consumer and direct-to-retail sales with scale. Processed foods, products that are distinctly ownable and have Jersey equity, like tomatoes, strawberries, and blueberries, and corn are also possibilities. Sustainable crops and markets with some significant global demand, for example, things like hazelnuts, what we should talk about tomorrow. And other crops with large scale potential, like organic grains. We have many, many organic grain growers in the state, and they are doing quite well, I think. Retailer partnerships is another possible consideration. And sorry, but since I am a marketer at heart, memorable branding and communications. So there are possibilities. But today, at today's conference, we're going to step back and look at local New Jersey farms and also national, regional, and New Jersey statewide pictures of what are important issues facing our food system. And I hope that you'll enjoy some of our provocative speakers. So now briefly switching gears to some of NOFA New Jersey's work. We've significantly stepped up our collaborative efforts with the 7 chapters of NOFA and MOFCA to position ourselves as a region. We're so grateful for partners who have helped work with us in the past couple of years, community gardens like Isles, Bullock Gardens, Crops, Newark Conservancy, Cooperative Gardens Commission, and the Drumthwacket Foundation. And to all the farmers and super talented friends that have helped us get online in the last 2 years, thank you so much. You'll see many of them tomorrow afternoon, but just to name a few, Mark Canwright, Matt Conver, Jess Niederer, Charles Rosen, and Alec Giuseppe, Jim and Kathy Lyons, Jeff Lisbarsky, John Lima, Bob Muth, Charlie West, and our board members, Tomia, Al, Ariana, Kim, and Nate, have all helped us develop online content. And last but not least, thanks to our Rutgers friends, Meredith, the two Merediths, Meredith Melendez and Meredith Taylor, Tom Molnar, Mark Robson, Marjorie Kaplan, Stephanie Murphy, Xenia Morin, Jim Simon, Rob Rosner, Bob Goodman, Brian Schilling, Andy Wynant, and Jack Chen. They have all helped us with a lot of developing products. And and content. So thank you all. But last but not least today, I wanted to make a special announcement. After many months of work and cooperation between a bunch of organizations, we are finally able to say that we'll be inviting farmers across the state to work with Rutgers, New Jersey Conservation Foundation, OGRN, and New Jersey Department of Fish and Wildlife to farm with organic management practices on 500 acres of land located in New Jersey wildlife management areas. Our vision is to increase land access for those in the state who have not had opportunities like this one. The project will begin with a 41-acre pilot in the Whittingham Wildlife Management Area, where we will be growing crops with Chief Vincent Mann and the Turtle Clan of the Ramapo-Lenape Nation. We're also already in conversations with Tobias Fox and his community in Newark, and then Nanticoke Lenape in southern New Jersey. We invite you to stay tuned for more information on this project and hope that if you are interested in joining the effort, you will reach out to NOFA New Jersey and to Devin and myself directly. It's important to note that this land is going to be going to farmers who have been historically underserved. And frankly, we are not charging any rent or anything for people to have access. And we're offering a lot of technical support in addition, right? But to be successful, we'll need many hands and hearts. So we hope you'll consider learning more and joining us in this effort to get farmers onto wildlife management areas. So finally, thank you to all of you, NOFA New Jersey community, for your support over the last 3 years, and to our amazing team, Tony and Sean. And best of all, I'm excited that your new executive director, Devin Cornea, has joined us. And we know he'll be fantastic, and you've probably really enjoyed his content over the last month, and I really appreciate his partnership getting ready for this winter conference. So welcome, Devin. And now it's my privilege and pleasure to introduce Chief Vincent Mann to do the invocation for today's conference.
Kia Kolomosi, Ninju Shinzi, Kikai, Man, Tukwa, Lamawa, Wanjakil, Anishi Ki Shalamokwen, Elamiliang Yonkwai Kish Creek, Wak Kukana Aki, Wak Tindau, Wak Mbi, Wak Ilongo Mati, Wak Nimbu Mausawakanum, Anishik, 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 Anishik. How is everyone? My name is Chief Mann. I am from the Ramapo Turtle Clan, the Ramapo Mountains and the Ramapo River. Thank you, Creator, for giving us this day, our Mother Earth. We thank you for the fires and the water. We thank you for all of our relations, and most importantly, we thank you for our lives. And then I thank the 4 directions. Today is a special day. As we sit here and look out our windows here in the Northeast, we see all the snow that is coming and blanketing the earth, reminding our natural world that soon it'll be time to begin to wake up, where we begin to hold those seeds in our hands, just as our women across the world hold the seeds to the future as well of humanity. When we plant those seeds, we'll begin to see them emerge from the earth as our children do from our mother's womb. And as we do, we nurture those children, and they become toddlers, and our seedlings begin to grow and begin to crawl, and they begin to stand up upon their own, just as our kids become teenagers and young adults. And then when those seeds and those seedlings get older and they near the end of their life, they show their gratitude, they show their humility by offering us back that knowledge and wisdom and the fruit, their children that they bear. So it's with that mindset, with that thought of our connectedness to our natural world and to us humans, that my belief is that we should walk forward in that way. Being here in our homelands in New Jersey, we remember our ancestors and we remember their struggles that they had. And we remember the struggles that we have today. And part of that has come through with our relationship with NOFA and our relationship with Nagisa and Ramapo College and Rutgers University, Newark and New Brunswick and others. And we want to, speak those words of our language because our ancestors do not understand this tongue. We talk to our plants, we talk to our ancestors, we sing, we dance, and we're reminded of our original instructions. We should all keep in mind that the plight and the fight for food sovereignty for Indigenous people and food justice for all is something that we should all strive for. I myself and Miss Michaeline are the co-founders of Muncie Three Sisters Medicinal Farm that we created to provide food to our community who's been suffering living in a Superfund site for 57 years. And while creating that farm, we understand too from our original instructions that we're related to everything and everyone. And so part of our goal while taking care of our community is going to be taking care of our larger community, where we can offer excess food to communities that are in need. We view food as not only medicine, but we view food as a right, just like water and air. So it's an honor for me to be able to be here today to represent not just the Turtle Clan, not just Muncie Three Sisters Medicinal Farm, but all humans, Ilungot Matit, all of our relations. Again, I thank you, and I cannot wait to hear my sister Winona Leduc in a little bit. So hope you enjoy this conference today and tomorrow, and I hope that these words that I share from my heart, from this earth here, resonates with you, not just today, but into the future. Anishik, thank you.
All right, well, thank you so much, Chief. That was a wonderful invocation to start our day. Next up, we have Jim Riddle. Let's get real, protecting organic from the ground up. For those of you who don't know Jim, he's definitely a very berry specialist. Jim, are you standing by? Are you with us there?
I'm ready.
All right, welcome aboard. So we'll put you up on the screen. I guess Devin, let's see. There we go. Beautiful. Hey, Jim. Good morning.
Good morning.
Did you guys get much snow up north?
Well, it's just starting here, so it's coming down. We're predicted to get 10 to 15 inches.
Oh, we got a whole 4 inches here in New Jersey.
Is it still coming down?
It's still coming down, so hopefully that'll be increased. But
all right,
tell us about what we're going to be talking about today.
Sure. Well, thanks so much for inviting me to speak. It's truly an honor to be speaking at the NOFA New Jersey Winter Conference. And I'll be wanting to share my screen because you don't want to just look at me the whole time. So it's disabled so far. I can't do that. Okay, it's coming up. All right. So I've titled my talk, Let's Get Real, Protecting Organic from the Ground Up. But first, before I get into kind of the nitty gritty there, I'd like to just tell a little bit about my own history and how that interfaces with the history of the organic movement. I grew up on a small farm. We had a few dairy cows, raised and sold sweet corn in central Iowa. My mom was a big gardener. She also, earlier in life, had been the personal secretary of Mrs. Henry A. Wallace, FDR's Secretary of Agriculture and then Vice President during those years. So certainly raised my awareness about conservation and political engagement. And we had about a 1 acre pond, spring-fed pond back in the woods on our farm that my dad had the vision to dam up these springs, and it really shaped my love of nature, of fishing, of wildflowers, trees. And my dad was a visionary, but unfortunately he was quite a bit older than me and died when I was 13, so I didn't get to know him all that well. But one of the magazines we received in our household growing up, we didn't have a television, but we got Organic Gardening magazine. And I read through those pages and also loved my mom's garden, and especially the compost pile, because it's a place where I knew I could always find earthworms to go fishing in the pond. My first exposure to anybody from New Jersey was when I went to Grinnell College, where I majored in biology and political science, and Bruce Springsteen came and played in Darby Gymnasium. He had been booked before he went big, a couple years, and when he was locked into coming to Grinnell, it was right when Born to Run was hitting it and Clarence Clemens had joined the band. That was quite an experience to have him slithering through the crowd right next to me in Darby Gym. Well, after a while, I moved to Southeast Minnesota. I met a beautiful woman, Joyce Ford. We got married and lived there for many, many years. Raised two daughters, older girl Laura and younger girl Sonia, which are just joys to our lives. We built our own home, tore down an old barn, and put in solar panels and actually lived off grid for 25 years with power from the wind, the sun, and heating with wood. And so there's the home we built, and we eventually hooked up to the grid when we put up a bigger solar array so we could sell power when we had excess. But most of the time, Joyce and I worked the land. We had up to 11 acres in organic production and soil building rotations, and helped start the Winona Farmers Market on the banks of the Mississippi River in Southeast Minnesota. And this was in the mid 1980s. And we were a group of 4 farmers that helped start the market. And we got to create our own rules. And we said, you have to grow it or process it yourself within a 50-mile radius of Winona. And that market has always been a local foods market, and it's the place to be on Saturday mornings in the summer in Winona. But I started doing organic inspections during that same time, inspecting other farms. Our farm was certified organic, but before long, I was asked to help train other inspectors, and that led to the inspectors getting together and saying, we need our own organization. And so we formed what's now the International Organic Inspectors Association, and developed trainings. We held trainings all over the US, Canada, Latin America. This just happens to be a training we held in Maine. It's hard to tell who's inspecting whom here. This is a training we held on an Amish farm in Pennsylvania. And there's a couple people from New Jersey I see, L. Johnson with his yellow pad kneeling there in front. And I see L is still on the board of NOFA New Jersey. Good for you and good for the organization, Al. And there's Emily Brown Rosen with the yellow notebook. She worked for NOFA New Jersey and was instrumental in starting the Organic Materials Review Institute, which plays a critical role in the whole organic regulatory system. I got to travel to Japan, I think 7 times, doing trainings there. And one thing we found very interesting in Japan, 10 minutes before class would start, everyone would be in their seats, pen ready, and most of them wearing suits. During those trips to Japan, I also got to work with my good friend Yoko Mizuno, who helped form the Japan Organic Inspectors Association, but also here meeting with the Vice Minister of Agriculture to shape and have input on the organic regulations in Japan. And every business meeting in Japan seems to end with a night out, dinner, and possibly even karaoke. But one of the things I really took away from my time visiting Japan, I always like to spend some time at a Shinto shrine, which are always humble and in nature. And my understanding of the Shinto belief is if you're Japanese, you're Shinto, which means you're of the earth. Now you can choose to be Buddhist or whatever you want, but you are of the earth. And that really resonated with me. All of a sudden I'm locked up here. Oh, that method works. All right. And we got to do several trainings in Australia where Joyce got up close and personal with the kangaroos, and even did a training course in Russia. And I have to say, every day at the end of the day, we both just felt glad to still be alive. It was a very different situation there in Russia. In the late 1990s, we were approached by IFOAM, the International Federation of Organic Agriculture Movements, who had the possibility of funding from the Ministry of Environment of Finland for us, IOIA, to write an organic inspection manual. And Joyce and I led that project. And here I am in Finland presenting it to the president of IFOAM. And in that trip, also got to go to the Sauna Society headquarters in Helsinki in January at night, but there are no pictures. In 1997, USDA released their first proposed organic rule. They did it right at Christmas, December 21st, right before I was scheduled to go to Japan early in January. And I read this thing. I spent my whole Christmas holidays going through it line by line and writing comments with replacement language. The big issue is that first proposed rule would have allowed genetic engineering, sewage sludge, irradiation, the use of antibiotics to livestock, feeding slaughter byproducts to organic livestock, and it had a really bad seal, and I'll show you that. It received over 275,000 negative comments, set a record for any proposed rule USDA had ever released. This is the artwork that was proposed for an organic seal by USDA first. And I took a look at that and I thought that looks a lot like a fallout shelter or radiation hazardous warning sign overlaid with a not sign. And I don't know who came up with it, but it wasn't a very compelling message. And I knew USDA could do better because they had just recently released a Redura logo to go on irradiated food products. And doesn't that look friendly and appealing? Makes you want to pick up a package with that kind of label. So anyway, after those comments, and there were people that were fired or moved to a different department, brought in some new people, started listening to the recommendations of the National Organic Standards Board, and a final rule was issued in October, took effect October 21st, 2002. And during those same years, our farm had participated in conservation cost share programs. And so I knew about those, but I was also working as an organic inspector. And like the number one complaint I'd hear is the cost of certification. Why, as an organic farmer, should I have to pay to show that I'm taking care of the earth? Well, there was a state senator in Minnesota, Senator Janet Johnson, who brought a group of us together. What can we do to help support organic farmers? And so I had this idea to create a cost share program to help reimburse a portion of the costs of organic farmers. It was a $35,000 appropriation. It went into the first budget bill that was presented to Governor Jesse Ventura. And in Minnesota, the governor has line item veto on budgets. So he went through his first budget bill with a pig stamp. Anything he didn't like, he considered pork, and it got the pig. Well, the cross-share program survived the pig. It went into effect, and then was able to work with Senator Paul Wellstone to get that same concept into the 2002 Farm Bill. And since then, we've had a nationwide organic certification cost share program. And I must say, Paul Wellstone was the most honorable, honest, hardworking politician I've ever met. We were roommates together, delegates for Jesse Jackson to the 1988 Democratic National Convention before he was a senator. I truly miss that man. I think our country misses him. But I got to be in Washington. Mr. Riddle goes to Washington. I was appointed to the National Organic Standards Board on the very last day of Bill Clinton's term in office. And here we are at a board meeting. You can just feel the excitement in the room. It's a lot of hard work, but it's a volunteer position, a 5-year commitment, and we really need good people who are committed to protecting organic integrity to step up to offer to serve on the National Organic Standards Board. Has a very important role and is the only body that can either approve or remove materials to be used in organic crop, livestock, or processing. The Secretary of Agriculture doesn't have that power. It resides with this volunteer 15-member board. After my term ended on the National Organic Standards Board, I took a position with the University of Minnesota as organic outreach coordinator. So I got to put together lots of field days, things like presentations at the Minnesota State Fair, and wrote a publication for the fair. What is organic food and why should I care? That if you look that up, you probably can still find it somewhere online. Because of my connections with the University of Minnesota, I was invited to speak in Iran at an organic conference in both 2014 and 2015. And it was truly an honor on my second trip to Iran to share the stage with Vandana Shiva, truly a hero in the soil health movement and organic agriculture movement. It's just like it's an honor today to be sharing the stage with Winona LaDuke, someone I've known, admired for many, many years. Would just love to be there in person, be able to give you a hug, Winona. But at any rate, when I went to Iran, I was just really humbled that this is a very ancient culture. This is Persia. And people well-educated, dedicated to protecting their environment. Here's a pomegranate farm. And one of the things I wanted to do besides visiting historical sites, I spent about a week each trip in Iran, was to visit organic farms. So here's organic pomegranates, the best pistachios I've ever had in my life, and incredible dates. So anyway, a wonderful place, a wonderful experience. During those same years, Joyce and I were volunteering, doing work with farmers in Jamaica, and also working with some government agencies to help set up organic certification services in Jamaica, and not, done by Jamaicans, not by outsiders. So enough of this Jamaica daydreaming. We spent our days during the last 12 years, especially the summer, operating Blue Fruit Farm in Southeast Minnesota, all because Joyce had the bright idea to say, let's grow blueberries in about 2008, 2009. And that's what we've done. Incredible flavor-packed, healthy blueberries. But blueberries like an acidic soil, and our soil is not naturally acidic, so we've had to do a lot to acidify the soil. But I wanted to also grow some things that liked our soil the way it was. So we have really pushed aronia berries, elderberries, and black currants. And now my slides are moving on their own. And honeyberries, which I encourage you to learn more about. They're known as the fruit of long life, have higher antioxidant levels than blueberries, elderberries, even aronia berries. And plus you can eat them just fresh out of hand like a blueberry. We also had a lot of tour groups. This was quite a crop of kids we had running around one summer. And now we're in the process of passing on our farm operation to Ben, Natalie, and their daughter Ostara, who just loves to be a blue fruit farmer. And they're living in our house while we're spending our days with these little ones, our granddaughters here in New Hampshire, Rose and Eleanor. But it's time to get real and talk about the situation we're in right now. The starting precept that I work under: we're all children of the earth, pure and simple. That's what we are. We're natural beings who need clean air, clean water, and clean food to survive. We're part of the Earth's ecosystem, and we rely on its health for our very survival. But here's the deal. Humans have altered Earth's ecosystem to the point where human habitation may become impossible. A lot of other things are going to survive, I have no doubt about that. But can humans? We don't know. What to do? Well, we need to do like these dung beetles and get our shit together. We need to conserve energy at every level. We need to adopt renewable energy. It works. Respect nature in all ways. Think about it. Be mindful, respect. And learn to live within our means. Do we really need to order that from Amazon? Really? We have to cut greenhouse gas emissions. We know that. The science is clear. And that involves stop burning fossil fuels to wean ourselves from that. And to really stop methane emissions, both from refineries and oil wells, but also from concentrated animal feeding operations, or CAFOs. Major source of methane emissions are coming from these CAFOs. And to stop applying synthetic nitrogen fertilizer. That causes the release of nitrous oxide, which is a much more powerful greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. It also destroys soil life and soil structure. So we need to get away from that. We have to build soil. Any of these other strategies will not succeed unless we build soil. We simply must. Healthy living soil has the ability to sequester tremendous amounts of carbon. It's really the only way that we can capture carbon from the atmosphere and get it in the ground where it does good. It's a good thing. Numerous civilizations have collapsed because they've abused the soil. And it's always been a fundamental organic principle that healthy soil leads to healthy plants, healthy animals, healthy people, and a healthy planet. That is rooted in J.I. Rodale, when he coined the phrase organic farming in the 1940s, was talking about organic matter and healthy soil. That is what organic is based on. And it's even, the definition is a very holistic definition of organic production. In the organic regulation is defined as a production system that's managed to respond to site-specific conditions by integrating cultural, biological, and mechanical practices foster recycling, the cycling of resources, promote ecological balance, and conserve biodiversity. And the soil building component is captured in the Organic Foods Production Act very clearly when it says that in order to be certified organic, you have to have an organic plan. And for crops, that organic plan shall, not can, shall, must, shall contain provisions designed to foster soil fertility, primarily through management of the organic content of the soil through proper tillage, crop rotations, and manuring. So it's right there in the law. And the National Organic Standards Board has adopted principles of organic production and handling. And they begin saying organic agriculture is an ecological, production management system that promotes and enhances biodiversity, biological cycles, and soil biological activity. Is designed to optimize soil biological activity and maintain long-term fertility. So that's why we've seen organic farmers over the years just growing green manure crops and plowing them down just to feed soil organisms and to increase the organic matter content in the soil. That makes it more drought proof. It allows water to percolate into the soil, and it captures nitrogen and carbon and puts it in the soil where it can be consumed by soil organisms and then released as nutrients to crops. That's why organic farmers go to great lengths to make compost, capturing those nutrients. At Blue Fruit Farm, we always capture our grass clippings from between the rows. We chip up the prunings and then mix with horse manure from a nearby horse farm and make just powerful compost that feeds the soil. We also plant native prairie species, increase the biodiversity and the food sources for pollinators, whether it's honeybees or bumblebees or other. And the scientific research shows that organic farming increases biodiversity at every level of the food chain, from bacteria to mammals, in peer-reviewed research. But I must say that hydroponic is not organic, but currently the USDA is allowing it to be called, to be certified by just a handful of certifiers. It's only a few that are allowing this, and there haven't been new rules written. In fact, the NOSB passed a recommendation in 2010 saying this should not be allowed, but still the USDA through kind of dark of night allowances is letting this happen. What are hydroponic production systems? Well, they're very energy intensive. They're industrial facilities. The land has been leveled, covered with plastic. They're totally artificial environments. Then they generate tons of plastic waste. They don't sequester carbon in the soil. They do nothing to promote ecological balance or conserve biodiversity, like is in the definition of organic production. They don't comply with the soil building requirements in the Organic Foods Production Act. And the organic rule has a section of its own just requiring soil building crop rotations. They don't comply with that either. And they deceive consumers when their products are being labeled organic and they're competing with real organic products. And guess what? This is only being allowed in the United States. It's clearly prohibited in the European Union and Canada, Mexico, even Jamaica's organic regulations prohibit this. But yet you have companies in Mexico, in Canada, in the Netherlands, and in the United States that are operating hydroponically, totally soilless, just a nutrient solution to feed those crops. But people are importing into the US and competing with domestic, real organic farmers and undermining markets for real organic farmers. And these systems are even inconsistent. The USDA has a big organic research program, and one of the priorities is examining optimal conservation, soil health, and environmental outcomes related to organically produced products. And the Natural Resource Conservation Service of USDA provides funding for things like establishing buffer zones, creating pollinator habitat, improving soil health, controlling erosion, grazing plans, crop rotations, cover crops. Hydroponics is totally inconsistent with that as well. I mean, organic is the original climate smart farming, but when you add in hydroponic, it undermines that whole reality of organic production. I know it's a lot to chew on. What can we do? Well, you can avoid these fake organic brands. That's what I do. And the main brands are Driscoll's, selling blackberries, blueberries, raspberries; Wholesome Harvest with tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, summer squash, eggplant; Superior Fresh, leafy greens, lettuces; and various store brands. So ask your produce manager, is this grown in soil? Is this real organic? Or is this hydroponic being marketed as organic? And I was in our local grocery store the other day and I saw Driscoll's, USDA logo, blackberries. And right next to it were Driscoll's blackberries. But they came in 12-ounce containers, whereas the ones labeled organic were just in 6-ounce containers. And look at the price difference. The conventional ones, 12 ounces for $6. The ones labeled organic, 6 ounces for $5. That's a 67% markup just by slapping that label on. And they're all hydroponic. So that's one thing. If you're going to buy blackberries, why spend the money on the ones that are labeled organic when the others are hydroponic too? Anyway, what about sprouts? Well, here it's unique because the organic regulation has language specifically allowing sprouts to be labeled organic. They have to be 100% organic seed and grown with water, follow good manufacturing practices, be certified, but that is allowed. And then what about this plant? This is a very interesting situation. In 2018, Farm Bill allowed hemp to be grown in the US. So CBD products have really taken off, and that can be certified organic. So you see quite a few CBD products and other hemp products carrying the organic logo. But cannabis, even though a number of states have legalized for both recreational and medicinal use, is still a federal one, or Schedule 1 federal illegal drug. So it can't be certified organic, but yet there are various organic claims being made out there in the cannabis market. One interesting thing I just learned recently is the state of New Hampshire, which has a medical cannabis program, in their state law requires that the alternative treatment centers follow organic practices. So, but yet they can't be certified. So this is a story which is yet to be written, I would say, what's going to happen about organic claims being made on both hemp and cannabis products. Well, what else can we do? Well, grow a garden, learn to put up food. It's fun, it's healthy. Buy from growers that we know and trust. Establish those relationships. We've all heard it before. Know your farmer, know your food. But seek products that are certified by the Real Organic Project. And currently, Real Organic Project is certifying about 850 farmers around the country. They have to follow the USDA organic rules, but then they also have to grow in the soil. Or if they're livestock producers, they have to provide true pasture to their animals. And you'll hear more about them in just a moment. But there are products now carrying the Real Organic Product logo. Also, you can look for products that don't have hydroponic counterparts. So things like tree fruit, sweet corn, peas, beans, potatoes, onions, garlic, grains, coffee, tea. They don't have hydroponic counterparts. So you can shift some of your buying habits. But more importantly, I would say apply political pressure on USDA, the White House, members of Congress, your State Department of Agriculture, and your certifying agency to end the quote unquote organic certification of hydroponic operations and concentrated animal feeding operations. I'm not going to go into the problems there, but they're huge CAFOs with 10,000 head of dairy cattle or 100,000 head of poultry in one building or one site, which are being certified as organic at this moment. But also, why not have the hydroponic industry create their own label? You know, for products that are grown only using inputs that are approved for organic use, something like hydroganic, I don't care what it is, but whatever it is, find your own word and stop trying to cash in on what we've worked so hard to create. And get informed. I mentioned the Real Organic Project. They're having a symposium starting tomorrow called Milk and Money, which really focuses on some of the livestock issues, but also the larger issues happening. And here's their logo to look for that. But they have also archived symposium and presentations on their website. The Cornucopia Institute has a great publication about the hydroponic issue, but also have done quite a bit of research on the grain fraud, imported grain fraud, things happening with the CAFOs, etc. The National Organic Coalition, as the name says, is a coalition of groups that have presence in Washington, D.C. to stand up for organic integrity. I know that the NOFA Interstate Council is very active in the National Organic Coalition, but check them out. And if you're a certified organic farmer, I encourage you to join the Organic Farmers Association. It's the only organization that provides a direct voice for certified organic farmers on national policies. There are organizational members, and most of the NOFAs have joined. I don't believe that NOFA New Jersey has yet. I encourage you to do so. The organizations and supporting members have a voice, but at the end of the day, it's only the certified organic farmers who vote on the policy positions taken by OFA. Also, the Rodale Institute has started their own kind of beyond organic certification. I call it RegenoCert, or regenerative organic certification. I don't know how many operations they've certified, but you should check that out. And Rodale is a tremendous source of information. So to kind of summarize and tie things together, I go back to where I started. Let's get real. Touch the soil. Make compost. We have it here at our house in New Hampshire. Everybody can make compost. Great way to capture those nutrients and then to feed, whether it's your garden, your flowers, your fruit trees, whatever. And take the time, get outside, even on a snowy day, listen to nature, learn from nature, and love the earth. That's what it all comes down to. We tend to take care of the things we love. We're all part of the web of life. Thank you.
All right, well, Jim, so hang right there with us for a little bit. So we had some good questions came in. But first I have a question, because you said there was a name for the people of the earth, a Japanese name for people of the earth. My brain's like a goldfish. I forget too quickly. So what was that word?
Well, yeah, it's really the belief system that's fundamental, Shinto.
Shinto. Okay.
Right.
That's beautiful. It's awesome. Because we are. And I think the more people remember.
Yeah, it's the starting point for all of us. It's something that I've always kind of been in touch with, having grown up in the woods and the pond and the gardens and all that. And when I was in Japan, it really hit home. Yes, that is who I am. That is who humans are. And we lose touch of that way too easily in the industrial world, and everything's so convenient and fast paced. And now we're spending our time in front of screens, but we've got to get outside. We've got to keep our roots and be in touch with our roots to be well informed in our daily decisions.
So one of the first questions that came in, what do you see as the biggest challenges to organic agriculture going forward?
Yeah, well, like Nagisa was saying in the opening remarks, the market is there. It's tremendously popular. People don't want to be consuming residues of toxins or genetically engineered or products from animals that have been raised in inhumane conditions, and organic represents a viable alternative. At least it did until hydroponic and CAFOs have corrupted it from within. So that's a big challenge. It also, and I feel a little bad about this because I had a hand in creating the bureaucracy that we've created. But to be certified is a lot of paperwork. It's keeping a lot of records. It's jumping through a lot of hoops. So that is an ongoing barrier. The more we can do to help farmers enter the organic marketplace with good knowledge, with some financial support, because it's a big risk when you're transitioning from a conventional system where you know there's government money that you can access, and now you're going organic, which is much more of a market-driven system. In Europe, you can get a good support safety net when you convert your farm to organic. Here we don't. The best we have is that certification cost share that comes in after the fact, where you've taken the risk, you've gone through a 3-year transition period, you've filled out all the paperwork, you've gotten inspected, you paid for that, and now you get a reimbursement. Well, but that didn't help you alleviate or cover some of the risk you were taking by transitioning and entering this new market. So that I see as an ongoing challenge, is just helping more farmers access the market and understand the rules and regs and how to comply, but just how to have access to land. There's so many young people that are interested in producing food, but they don't have access to land. They didn't grow up on a farm. They don't have the capital. And I think whatever we can do, whether it's urban gardening, whether it's vacant lands, fish and wildlife lands, or national wildlife refuge lands, I think that is a wonderful direction. But because of the popularity of your organic, it leads to two things that I've seen: downward pressure on the standards. And we saw that National Organic Standards Board, always the lobbyists for conventional ag are at USDA every day. They're at Congress every day. They're the same people. They're a revolving door. They worked there last year. Now they're back lobbying. So we need to have a voice and be heard, and to keep the standards high, but not just the standards, how they're being implemented. And that's where you have many certifiers, and most organic farmers are totally devoted to protecting organic integrity. But a little bit of slippage here leads to some huge advances in the kind of counterfeit organic production. And that's what we've seen with hydroponic and with these CAFOs. And now you have 89 real organic dairy farms throughout New England being told their contracts are ending, not because there's not a demand for their product, but because Horizon, Danone can get the quote unquote organic milk cheaper from CAFOs in the arid Southwest, where everything is irrigated. They're totally dependent on depleting aquifers to keep those animals alive to produce that cheap milk that then is shipped back to New England and sold at a lower price. So those are some big challenges. We did have a huge issue with cargo ship loads of grain coming in to the US and being sold as organic, conventional, genetically engineered grain it was, but it was slipping through the cracks. So better enforcement at our borders to make sure it's authentic, and just being aware and demanding that organic integrity be protected.
Jim, one of the questions that came through also had to do with federal programs like food subsidies and crop insurance, and how that influences the organic market.
Yeah. Well, let's start with the child lunch program. Let's give our kids the best food we can. So let's get organic into every school lunch, regardless of where in the country it is. Let's get that milk from those 89 real organic dairy farmers being fed to kids here in New England. So yeah, let's look at the federal contracting and provide, WIC coupons or SNAP benefits that are earmarked for local, fresh, healthy, organic food. And then, we made some big advances in the last 20 years, but this has been one of the advantages. I mean, it's a mixed bag. When the organic regulation took effect and it became USDA organic, we were getting in bed with the government. And in doing so, we didn't realize it, but it was a commitment to not sleep very well, to keep a eye open, And watch out what's happening in that bed, because now we're in bed. It's not something you can just walk away from. It's an ongoing commitment. But because we have the organic regulation, that has empowered lots of universities to launch organic research programs. Now it's defined, it's quantified, they know what the rules of the game are. The same thing happened with crop insurance. They couldn't quantify the risk. What is organic before the regulation took effect? Now it became something where they could develop actuary tables and have pricing available to cover organic farmers at organic prices. So there's been a lot of progress there, but still, yeah, crop insurance really still tilts the conventional ag sector towards high risk production. It doesn't matter if you have a crop failure, you can grow on marginal land because Uncle Sam's going to come through with a check at the end of the day. So that it still is really, I think, preventing the kind of greenhouse gas capturing crop rotations that all of agriculture must adopt. It has to be fundamental for organic. It's a regulation and it's being ignored, but it's certainly being ignored in the conventional ag sector. And that would be the easiest place to do cover crops, because you can kill them with herbicides, but you're capturing that carbon and building the soil organic matter. It's a little tougher for organic farmers, but we do it, because we care about soil health. But yeah, those are some of the, government program impacts. But we see, a lot more information available than there was certainly back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s now, because the organic program has been implemented. And we have NRCS, AMS, all these other government agencies now making organic offerings.
So we've got tons of really awesome questions, and we're going to do our best to get through as many as we can. But one came up from our new executive director, Devin Gornia. So habits of Americans versus internationally, how do they compare? And how are some of the other countries trying to engage the consumer and educate the consumer that maybe we're missing, maybe ways that we
are. Yeah, we are. We look no further than various European countries for really embracing all the multi benefits that organic brings, of soil health, of preventing erosion, of building biodiversity, of good healthy people. And Denmark, for example, helps organic farmers get certified. It's a state-run certification program. They actually have training courses to become a farmer. So you're supported right from the get-go, from the ground up. And over 35% of the dairy in Denmark is organic. That's a third of all the dairy consumption is organic milk. They're raised in Denmark. It's been a number of years ago now, but there were over 125,000 certified organic farms in Italy. There's maybe 30,000 in the US at most. I mean, because they support agriculture and food as a starting point, whereas in the US, it's cheap food and to hell with the environment. It's extractive type of production that we've based our food system on. So yeah, I think there's good models there. And certainly explicitly prohibiting hydroponic from being sold as organic, right in their regulations. That's something the NOSB recommended in 2010, but USDA, because they're more interested in meeting the market demand rather than how it's being met. So they turn a blind eye and let these hydroponic products and CAFO products in because they're going to sell. But I think they would sell just as well, at least the hydroponic, with an alternative seal, an alternative logo that was markedly different than the organic, but yet that conveyed something special to the consumer. People just want something special.
Yeah. So you made reference earlier to the paperwork load, to the added workload that is organic certification. And we had a question come in asking are there electronic platforms that can streamline things, that can make it easier for farmers to document their work?
Yeah, and many certifiers are going to online organic system plans. And now, because of the pandemic, even inspections have been done remotely, where a farmer films their own and the inspector asks questions. And, so taking into account, I think that's maybe been a benefit of this pandemic is improving our kind of digital skills. And I think we'll see a lot more of that. I'm currently working as an advisor to a project here in the Northeast, the various NOFAs, working with MOFGA in Maine, and then several universities developing organic inspector and reviewer courses with these universities. But also we're looking at, so many students are learning online. So should they be learning about a paper system online? No, they need to be learning about an online system online, and the certifiers are kind of playing catch up. And there are certainly a number of Amish or other producers who need to have access to the paper system. But at the same time, I think you're going to see more and more farmers, processors, livestock producers taking advantage of the digital options being offered. Yeah.
So something that's going to come up throughout the sessions today, I'm sure, and continue to come up as we as a society keep expanding and overpopulating. Here where we are in Somerset County, we've got land. There's all sorts of places to grow, but when you get into more tight communities, into more urban environments, and you don't have the land, sure, you might have a cool little side lot that's only so big, but more and more people are moving indoor. What are your thoughts and feelings about indoor growing, upgrowing?
Oh, it may be the future of food. I have nothing against it. It's just not organic unless it's being done in soil. Just because soil health is fundamental to the legal as well as the long time kind of philosophical definition of organic. But yeah, I think there's creative ways, and there's certainly a lot of organic high tunnel production where it's being done to extend the season. So even fruit being grown in soil, and there's ways to build that soil. You can do crop rotations with clover inside a structure. You can bring in a lot of good high quality compost that recycles nutrients and helps prevent diseases in an indoor situation. So yeah, I have nothing against it. I think there'll be more and more of that in limited spaces, and it brings predictability too. But it does raise some challenges with fungus, controlling that. So you need to be creative and understand how to prevent it, number one, but also what are some of the organic remedies that are allowed to be used and how effective they are.
So another important aspect of all of our work in agriculture is not just our soil health, which we all really work hard on, but labor issues. And there's a question about the responsibility of organic farms to their farm workers. And is there a way to incorporate that into any of the standards, perhaps?
Yeah, well, that's a tricky issue. I think organic farmers have been at the forefront of good labor standards, but I've always been hesitant to try to overlay social justice requirements directly into the organic standards. I do think they should go hand in hand, but it's enough work to meet the existing organic standards. It's enough to inspect and verify that the operation's in compliance without getting into the labor or even domestic violence issues, family issues, but there are some efforts that have gone on, an agricultural justice project, which has kind of works with organic farmers and looks at those labor issues. There are various pilots that have been done. I think it's totally compatible, but personally, I'd rather see it always as a hand-in-hand type relationship. But yeah, we certainly should be looking for fair trade and organic, things like coffee, cocoa, chocolates, that kind of stuff, to make sure that the places where they're being grown, that people are being treated humanely, in addition to taking care of the land and the environment.
So this is something that maybe all of us here should really kind of think about and talk about. I feel like one of the things that we're seeing, and one of the movements that we're actively trying to push and solve, is the general consumer. Everybody here probably gets it. We all understand the value and importance of biodiversity and organic. I would hope most of us here know that by now. But yes, the general public is so disconnected from their first place of being an earthling and earth, that they don't understand where food comes from. So what are some ways that we as a unit of conscious, efforted, intentional people can help recruit and teach the other folks without it being too preachy? Because nobody wants to be overly told what to do.
Yeah, well, you saw that one slide with our blueberry field full of little kids.
Yeah.
The more we can have people come to our farms, especially young people that can, they're really, they don't hold back. They want to touch things, they want to taste things, they want to experience what nature provides. The more we can help people understand, what's going on our farms, why do we care about the butterflies that we're not selling, but it's part of the web of life. And I think just the more we can share, and then, doing little YouTube videos, social media, getting in the face of where people are looking is just at their screens, and getting more and more kind of visually stimulating content that gets people to shut down their device and get outside, or to, hey, it's not so hard to grow a tomato plant, I'm going to try that. And just once you start growing something, then you start caring for that. And then you want to, how's this stay healthy? I've developed a relationship. So to me, it's all about relationships. Whether it's with a tree or with another person, it's all about relationships. So I think getting people out there, but also getting in the spaces where they reside, just with the love we have for the earth.
Yeah, and there are definitely some folks continuing on the discussion about social justice and worker rights, and I have to say one of the big aspects there for me is that when you have human scaled farms producing real food, you tend to work with real people. When you have farms that are industrial scale, the humans become cogs in the machine, and that's where things really kind of go sideways, in my opinion. But we have a very knowledgeable asker asking a question about your thoughts on the bio-based feedstocks and quote unquote biodegradable plastics, and why the NOSB might be thinking of allowing even less of that to be part of their plastics.
Yeah, well, I have to admit, it's not an issue I've been following.
Okay.
I know that some of the earlier bio-based plastics were just plastic that fell apart easier. So really, part of the requirements now is if you use plastic, you need to be able to remove it from the field at the end of the harvest or growing season. So you don't want it to break down. You want to be able to remove it, and then hopefully your county has a recycling for agricultural plastics. A lot don't, but some do, and we're going to see more of that, I think, too. But yeah, so it really depends. Is it something that truly breaks down and becomes a food source for soil organisms? Does it build soil health? To me, that's a bottom line to be looking at. And that's a problem when you do cover the land with plastic. You aren't incorporating organic matter. The soil can't respire, so it's like suffocating. And the rain doesn't percolate down. You've interrupted the whole natural cycle when you do that. And yeah, you can get good yields, and it's much easier. You don't have the weed problems. Your produce stays clean. There's lots of benefits, but you have to kind of think about what you're really doing to kind of the ecological cycles there. So yeah, if I were on the NOSB, I would read all the technical reports, read all the comments, and try and get much more informed than I am right now.
All right, so we're gonna field one more question, and then I'm sure everybody needs to reload on their coffee or tea and maybe pee. And any more questions coming in? Let's see. All right. Everybody so far is really happy. I don't know if you're reading the chat as you
I'm
go.
not, no.
Oh yeah, no, that's fine. Everybody loves you. They think you're doing great, and we all appreciate the work you have been doing and are continuing to do.
Well, it's all been worth it. I appreciate the thanks, but I've loved it. I've loved it.
Yeah. And so you had mentioned, you and I are working on this project together with the interstate NOFAs on creating content to help oh man, I lost the word now, hold on, content curriculum to help train new incoming certifiers. I guess not enough of the young agriculturalists are aware that that's a viable job. That's an important job. Is we need people that are going to go and assess and inspect, and as well as help guide people how to practice organic growing practices. So I'm psyched about that, and I'm glad that we've got you on the team, because you've obviously got a lot of time on this world. So yeah. So thank you.
I didn't hear the question.
Oh, there was no question. We're just filling you up with awesomeness and excitement for continuing our efforts together to keep organic moving.
It's an honorable profession. When you get into it's really a privilege to go to someone's farm or their dairy barn or their maple bush or processing operation, and they open the door to you and share their lives, share what they love, what they've been working so hard. Many farmers don't have somebody come and say, what are you doing? So it's a chance to really have that relationship with the people on the ground who are taking care of the earth, and to ferret out those ones who aren't, the ones who are attempting to commit fraud, who aren't following the organic standards, and to be able to document through proper investigative skills and say, no, they cannot use the organic label or the organic word.
Yeah. And I love the idea of having a new label, hydroganic. Hydroponics scientifically, wow, it's cool, but it is not soil.
Nothing's going to replace the synergy that life allows when you're grown in real soils.
Right.
We can't, with reductionist science, get to that level.
Right. Or the complex nutrient composition of the finished products. With our Blue Fruit Farm blueberries, we have so many people come to us and say, those are the tastiest, best blueberries we've ever eaten, even though we always buy organic. What's the difference? Well, there's a learning moment there. Ours are grown in real soil and healthy soil in a complex environment, and it's reflected in the complex flavors of those blueberries. It's just simple science.
Yep. And it comes through in all the organic foods that I've ever tasted. Like, truly well-managed soils produce tremendously, better food.
If anybody hasn't tried Organics oats, you should try it. They're really good.
No plugging your own products.
Your product, not my product.
There you go.
Anyway, all right. Well, so Jim, we thank you so incredibly much. I'm so excited to continue our work together. But we are going to go on a 5-minute break. So before Winona LaDuke comes on with us, which I know we're all very excited to hear and interact and see what she's got to say. But like I said, it's time to pee and refill your coffees and teas. So Jim, thank you so much.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, thank you. I look forward to hearing what Winona has to say.
Yeah, we'll see everybody back here in about 5 minutes.
Very good.
Thanks.